Hello and welcome back to the Tezumi YouTube channel. I'm David, and as promised in our previous video on Chasen, the Japanese matcha whisk, today I'll walk you through how to care for your brand new Chasen and how to clean and reshape one that has made many bowls of tea. The best way to keep your Chasen looking nice and new is to care for it properly both before and after you make a bowl of tea. As I've said in every video in which I make matcha, it's imperative that you do the step called Chasen-tōji or Chasen-tōji, which is the wetting and softening of the chasen before you make a bowl of tea. So to do that, you'll need some hot water. Each tea school does Chasen-tōji a little differently, but the main point is the same across the board. The idea is to use the hot water to wet and soften the tines. The tines are the piece of the chasen above the knot, and to inspect the chasen to make sure that none of the tines are broken. If they're broken, they're likely to come off when you're whisking matcha, and they'll end up in the tea. And that doesn't taste very good. So if you find a broken tine, make sure you just pick it off. Chasen-tōji doesn't take very long. All you really need to do is swish the chasen around the chawan a few times just to make sure that all the tines are evenly wet. If you don't follow a particular school of tea and you're just making a quick bowl of matcha, you can just sort of wiggle the whisk around. As long as the tines get wet, especially the top half of the tines, then you've done a good job. And now it's time to make your bowl of tea. If you don't know how to make usecha, check out our tutorial over here. After you've made your bowl of matcha, you're going to have some foam and some matcha powder stuck in your chasen. So it's important to rinse this out as soon as possible before the tea dries and adheres to the bamboo. I usually do this with hot water while I'm cleaning out my chawan. Swishing it around in the hot water got rid of most of the tea, but there's still some stuck on the tines, so I'm going to pour some hot water over it and try and rinse all of that tea off. So now that my whisk is nice and clean, I can set it down tines up so that the tines will keep their shape, and also that allows air to pass through the tines so they can dry naturally and quickly. When doing this, make sure that the bottom of the chasen is also dry. If this is wet, you'll want to clean it with a paper towel and dry it off. So that way, no moisture is stuck between the chasen and the surface that it's resting on. If there's moisture there, the bamboo can mold, which isn't very good. You might be thinking, why didn't I set the chasen down on one of these? These little ceramic devices have a few names, among them Kusenaoshi, meaning shape corrector, or chasen yasumi, meaning chasen rest. Some people like to rest their chasen on the Kusenaoshi, as this helps it stay in its shape. And if the chasen is nice and full and wide like this so that the tines don't stick to the Kusenaoshi, then this is fine, and a lot of chasen makers even recommend this. Personally, I don't like to leave my chasen on the Kusenaoshi because the damp tines can stick to the surface of the Kusenaoshi, meaning there's another possibility for mold to form. So personally, I like to leave my chasen to dry like this. Side note, I've seen people do this before. I don't know what this is, I don't know where this started, but this isn't a thing. If you're going to use this, like this. Now that I've shown you how to keep a brand new chasen in good condition, I'll teach you how to take these worst wear chasen and clean them properly, as well as restore them back to their original beautiful shape. So I've filled up my giant Edo chawan with some hot water, and I'll take these chasen and place them in here so they can soak up the hot water and the tines can soften. So now that this whisk is nice and wet, we can use the Kusenaoshi to restore it to its original shape. When using one of these, make sure that the inner tines go inside the hole and the outer tines stay on the outside. This might sound obvious, but as these whisks lose their shape over time, it's really easy to accidentally have one of the outer tines slip to the inside hole or one of the inner tines slip outside the hole. So now that you've made sure that the tines are correctly oriented, you can gently but firmly apply a bit of pressure to reshape the tines and splay them back out. Don't press too hard, as you could snap the bamboo, but bamboo is quite flexible and resilient, so it can take a bit of pressure. Now that you've got the tine splayed a bit too much, you can use your fingers to gently reshape them into the shape that you desire. This chasen also has a lot of old tea caked onto it, and to clean that off, you can either use your fingers or a toothbrush. So you can use the toothbrush to clean both the outside of the tines, and if you're using the Kusenaoshi to splay the tines, you can take advantage of the tines being wide open to clean the insides. Sometimes it's actually easier to use your fingers to scrape off any tea. Ideally, your chasen shouldn't get this dirty, but it happens. So this chasen has an obviously broken tine, so I'm going to make sure to pop that off. Cleaning your chasen helps prolong their lifespan, but at the end of the day, these are considered disposable utensils. In fact, historically, it was said that one should use a brand new chasen every time you serve tea. Not all of us can afford a brand new chasen every time you make a bowl of matcha, so here I am cleaning these chasen. If you don't like having to scrape off caked on matcha grime from an old piece of bamboo, you should follow the steps that I set out earlier in the video and make sure your chasen is nice and clean before storing it. As you can see from the color of the water in my chawan, I've taken a fair bit of grime and dirt off of these chasen, and now that I'm done cleaning and giving them a rough reshape, I'll make sure the bottom of the chasen is nice and dry before setting them down to air dry. The chasen are a little bit cleaner and their shape is a little closer to the original beautiful curved shape, but it is natural that these chasen will degrade over time. It is a piece of bamboo, it will wear. All of these chasen are still perfectly usable, and in fact I'd probably continue to use them until about half of the tines are broken off. One last thing to mention is that you might have noticed that 2 of these chasen are cracked. This is due to humidity. Bamboo likes to be kept in a relatively humid environment, around 40 to 60% humidity. If it gets too dry, the chasen will split and crack. That being said, this is still a usable chasen, but now it's aesthetically unique. Here's a little bonus tip. A few of you have asked how to clean a chashaku covered in matcha, and it's important not to get it wet. Getting the chashaku wet will cause the matcha to stick in the fibers at the back of the chashaku, and that's even harder to clean. So the best way to clean a chashaku is to simply wipe it with a dry cloth. I'm a little fancy, and I'll use a silk one. There you have it, a quick look at how to keep your new chasen looking new and your old chasen looking a little closer to new, plus a bonus tip on how to clean your chashaku. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let us know by hitting the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, and we have plenty on the way, make sure you subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future videos, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.